What's up, guys? In today's video, I'm gonna be sharing with you all of my top tricks, tips, and strategies for getting more views to your Airbnb short-term rental listing so that you can ultimately make more money. Everybody knows that the very first step, the top of the funnel, so to speak, when it comes to making money on Airbnb or with short-term rentals is getting more views to your listing. Obviously, if you don't get views, you're not gonna be able to get bookings and you're not gonna be able to make good money. So if you find that you're getting lower views than you'd like to, whether it's because your listing is just underperforming or it's maybe just performing well, but you want to take it to that next level, or if you found that your listing is maybe even penalized, maybe you're not getting as many views you want, or maybe it's slow season, whatever the reason may be, if you're getting fewer views than you'd like to be on Airbnb or short-term rental, then this is the video for you where I'm going to walk you through step-by-step how to fix that problem. Now, in another video, I'm also going to dive more into detail on how to actually improve your conversion rate. And that's what you want to focus on if you're getting lots of views, but those views just aren't actually translating into bookings. For any of you guys who are wondering what the issue might be, you can always go to the Insights tab on Airbnb and look at your booking conversion rate and compare that to your views and see which one is kind of the bigger opportunity. I like to do that and compare to similar listings nearby so that I can see if I have way fewer views than other similar listings nearby, I know that's a low-hanging fruit and that's where I want to pay attention. Whereas if I'm getting lots of views, but my conversion rate is much lower than the rest of the other similar listings nearby, then I know that focusing on getting more views might not actually solve the problem. In any case, let's jump right in and talk about some of the strategies that are gonna help you to get more views. We're gonna start with optimizing your views on Airbnb, and then I'm gonna share with you some tips and strategies that you can apply in order to get more views outside of just Airbnb so that you can become less reliant on them and just overall diversify your marketing for your property, which should in turn, if you do things properly, increase your overall revenue. So let's start with Airbnb. First of all, you want to make your property more bookable so that it shows up higher in the search results, because ultimately Airbnb is a search engine of sorts. And if you're showing up at the top of page one, your listing is bound to get way more views than if you're showing up at the bottom of page 7. And so the gold standard for performing well on Airbnb search is bookability. Now, a lot of you are probably asking yourselves, what does that actually mean? How do I make my property more bookable? And what you want to do is really start with the basics. Just think about it from a very common sense standpoint. What are the things that are going to make it easier and more attractive and more likely for guests to book your place? Well, obviously some really great photos are going to help. Obviously having all their questions answered so that they can actually book your place, having an up-to-date calendar, having reasonable pricing, all those things are going to make your property more bookable. Another big one is having really great reviews. We're going to touch on that in a moment here as well. And I'm also going to dive in a little later in this video how you can recover from maybe a bad review or if you're being penalized on Airbnb and getting kind of throttled on your views because of that. Overall, what you want to focus on are, for bookability, some of the basics would be having a really great listing headline. We've got other videos on the channel that walk through specifically how to optimize your booking headline. But really what you want to do with your listing headline is make it super attractive for someone to actually click through to your listing. In order to do that, you want to take those 50 characters that Airbnb gives you and package as much value in there as possible. Avoid filler words at all costs. You want to look through, one of the hacks I love to use is looking through reviews from past guests and seeing what people attribute as the common things that keep coming up again and again and again and again that people are always raving about with my properties. Or you can even take it one step further and either go through your messages or even just reach back out to guests and ask them what actually made them book your property over other properties. All the insights you glean from doing that bit of research, you're going to want to jam pack that into your headline so you can communicate a lot of that value right up front from the get-go. For example, if people love that you're really close to a convention center, you want to make sure that that's front and center in your headline. If they love the amazing decor in your place, you want to make sure you highlight that in your listing headline. Any of these things that are causing people to want to book your place, you want to put them front and center on that listing headline. Next thing you want to do is make sure the same things are highlighted in your photos right up front And that obviously it should go without saying, if you've been following this channel for any amount of time, you know that I'm a real big advocate for amazing, high quality professional photos on your Airbnb listing. So make sure you've got really great photos. That's going to make your property more bookable than probably anything else you could do if you're currently running with average or below average, or even just good and not spectacular, not great photos. So optimizing your photos, but then taking it a step beyond that and making sure that front and center in those first few photos, you really jam in as much value as possible by highlighting some of those most desirable amenities or features about your property so that guests are aware of that right when they start looking through your photos. Then lay your photos out in an intuitive way that's going to answer guest questions as they go. You can utilize captions for this as well. That's going to make your property more bookable, which then is going to get you more views on Airbnb. Now, coincidentally, all this stuff is also going to improve your listing's conversion rate. But by doing that and making your property more bookable, you're now also going to get a lot more views. Now, if you're looking for some low-hanging fruit, you can there is other stuff you can do, optimizing your listing description, optimizing your amenities, those sorts of things. But for the most part, the biggest hitting things that are real big bang for your buck when it comes to increasing your views are going to be your headline and your listing photos rather. Now, if you also want to get more views just from Airbnb organically, one of the great things you can do is make sure, if you haven't already, that you go and check off all the different amenities you have in your property. That's going to automatically get you more bookings and more views on Airbnb, because when people search for specific amenities, your property is actually going to show up in those search results. So that can be super helpful as well. Opting your pricing, making sure that's really dialed in, that's a whole other topic for another video, but needless to say that making sure that your pricing is up to date is going to also really help to get you more views, because people often search using price filters and they may just be not even looking at your property because they've filtered it out from search results if your pricing is way too high. Now, another thing you'll want to do is sort of a bit of a trick to Airbnb's algorithm, but it's one that actually really works quite well, is going in and regularly updating your listing. Now, the more regularly updated a listing is, the more Airbnb's algorithm views that as an up-to-date listing that is obviously more bookable. It's much less likely that Susie is going to cancel the reservation of the guests that try to book with her if she was just in updating her calendar, updating her listing 20 minutes ago versus if it was 20 weeks ago. Obviously, things get out of date, things change. You as a host may, Airbnb expects, forget to update your calendar, forget to update something. And so if a guest books, there's a higher likelihood of a cancellation occurring. Whereas if you're just in there all the time, constantly updating things, then it obviously helps to improve your search performance. So I recommend going in at least once a week. If you're finding that you're low on bookings and low on views, go in there just once a week and change things like your photos, maybe in the order of your photos. Grab a new photo and add it in, grab an old one and take it out. Maybe update your listing headline, your listing description, play around with stuff, and make sure you keep your calendar as up to date as possible as well. All these things in combination are going to help you to get more views on Airbnb. Another really great trick that I have for getting more views on a listing. Guys, just want to take a quick break here to say that for those of you watching who want to build cash flow and long-term wealth by purchasing Airbnbs and short-term rental properties, there's a link in the description right down below for a free training that'll walk you through my exact strategy for investing successfully in Airbnbs. Now, if you're not ready to actually buy properties and you want to get started managing other people's properties on Airbnb the same way I got started and build a full-time income managing other people's properties, there's actually another free training linked in the description down below as well that'll be a really great fit for you. So whether you want to invest in short-term rental properties and actually build amazing cash flow and long-term wealth by acquiring the assets, buying the properties themselves, or you're looking to earn a full-time income managing other people's properties on Airbnb, we've got some awesome trainings that are linked in the description down below that'll definitely help you out. When you sign up for the trainings, we're also going to send you a few other tools and resources completely for free just to help you get started. Again, the links to sign up are in the description down below, and both trainings and all of the tools are completely free. So make sure to register for the trainings, links in the description down below. Another really, really great trick that I have for getting more views on a listing is by using Airbnb's custom promotions. You can access that by going into your calendar and selecting a group of dates you want to apply a promotion to. You won't always want to use this because discounting your listing and applying promotions is often going to lower your price to a point where you maybe don't necessarily need to or don't necessarily want to. But other times you're going to notice that Airbnb's discounted pricing is really similar, really closely in line with where your pricing currently is at, just on its own by default with whatever you've set. And so if you have the option to either set your pricing at the same amount via manual pricing or via a promotion, you always want to go with the promotion because you're just going to get a big surge of views as a result of running that promotion, and you're not actually lowering your price if it's similar or the same, sometimes even higher than what you already had set on your own without the promotion. So that's a really nice, great trick that I use as well to just stimulate more views into the listing. Now, what should you do if you are being penalized by Airbnb? And now this happens often, right? Things happen. We get bad reviews sometimes. Sometimes there are issues. Sometimes you do get penalized from Airbnb. And so first and foremost, what you want to focus on is preventing that from happening again, resolving the actual issue that caused you to be penalized in the first place. Now, the next priority is going to be trying to remove that penalty from your account. Do whatever you need to do to try to get that penalty removed if it's reasonable for it to be removed. Sometimes, a lot of the time actually, guests will cause complaints, cause issues. And now I'm not saying this happens frequently, but I am saying that out of the actual issues that happen where you get bad reviews, a lot of the time it is because the guest is being unreasonable. And so a lot of the time, if you speak to the right representative at Airbnb, you can get that removed, taken down. You can get the penalties taken off of your account. There's different benefits that you can get from just reaching out to Airbnb support and pleading your case. So I highly recommend that you take the time to do that. It can be a bit of a tedious process depending on who you're communicating with. You might need to get escalated, transferred, different stuff. But at the end of the day, it's going to be well worth the amount of time that's going to take you. I recommend using their email support as opposed to phone support to just save you a whole bunch of time and a bunch of headache. So if you can get those penalties removed from your Airbnb account, assuming that they weren't really valid in the beginning, that's going to be really helpful as well. The next best thing you can do is make sure you get really good reviews in on your property so that you can, number one, bury the negative review down lower and really highlight the great reviews and the improvements that you've made to make sure you're ensuring those really great reviews, and also to just further signal to Airbnb's algorithm that this was a one-off incident and that you still deserve to get more traffic, more bookings, and you deserve to be on the platform. Those are all my tips for optimizing on Airbnb. But what if you're doing all of that? What if you've nailed all of that? You're doing a great job of it all, you're working on it all, and you still want to get more views to improve your listing's performance. Well, at that point, I highly recommend you diversify onto other platforms. That's actually a really good time to diversify. If you haven't nailed all of that, I recommend that you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stop watching right now, because it's not going to make sense to expand on a multiple different booking channels or take direct bookings if you haven't already mastered the one channel that you're on. But for any of you guys who are still here, you'll just want to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and keep watching, because now I'm going to jump into direct bookings and other platforms like VRBO or Booking.com. So for VRBO or Booking.com, any of these other OTAs, what you're going to want to do is launch really similarly to what you would launch like on Airbnb, where you want to slightly discount your pricing right out of the gate so that you get a nice new little boost of traffic, you get a nice boost of a couple of bookings coming in, and you really want to make sure you put your best foot forward as well. Take everything that's working really well over on that other platform, Airbnb, or your primary one, and now transfer it over and make sure that you launch right out of the gate really strongly. You'll want to integrate everything with something like a channel management software, whether that's IGMS or Hostaway. We've got other videos on this channel that go into detail about how to do that. And we also have other videos on this channel that go into the pros and cons of VRBO versus Booking.com and all the nuances you have to go through of getting those properly set up. But ultimately, that is one of the best ways that you can get more views to your listing, is just by getting it out there more and actually marketing it more. You got to think, if arbitrarily speaking, just random numbers I'm going to throw out there, if there are 1,000 people that are looking to stay at an Airbnb or a short-term rental rental property in your area next month, then maybe 800 of those or 700 of those are looking on Airbnb, but the other 200 or 300 are only looking on VRBO or are only looking on booking.com. And so right now, you're not getting those views simply because you're not listed on the right platform. Now, obviously you get some diminishing returns. You're not going to get as good a result launching on VRBO as you did when you launched on Airbnb in the vast majority of cases. And similarly, you're barely ever going to get a worthwhile return on listing on some niche website like Wimdu or something like that. But in my experience, it is often worthwhile to list on the 3 or 2 of the 3 major platforms, be it Airbnb, VRBO, and booking.com. So that's another way that you can get a whole bunch more views. But what if you want to take direct bookings? This can be one of the most powerful ways to get more views, because oftentimes when you're getting direct bookings, it can be coming, those views can be coming from people that actually really want to stay at your property and maybe have even stayed at your property before and shown that they're really great guests that actually want to stay at your place, want to spend money there. So one of the easiest, lowest hanging fruits that you can take advantage of to generate direct bookings is going to be collecting guest email addresses and doing some email remarketing. There's all kinds of other stuff you can do with whether it's paid advertising or social media advertising, but that stuff in my experience tends to take a lot of effort, tends to have a lot of costs associated with setting it up, and the return isn't necessarily there when you look at the actual return you get versus the time and the money and the effort that you put into it. Whereas email marketing can be very, very easy to set up, very streamlined. It takes very little effort to manage it ongoingly, and it can just generate repeat bookings with ideal guests on autopilot for you. What I recommend using for this is a tool called StayFi. I think I've got another video on the channel as well that dives just specifically into StayFi and the whole direct booking strategy there, but you can look into them, and basically what they offer is a module that you put in your home, in your short-term rental property for guests to access the Wi-Fi. And what it makes them do is enter their name and email address when they access the Wi-Fi, similar to how you'd access the Wi-Fi at, for example, a hotel. Now, the nice thing about this is that you then get to capture the email addresses and contact details of everyone that stays at your property, not just the one individual that actually booked the stay. So it's really, really handy. You generate a whole bunch of emails, and then what I like to do with it, StayFi has some built-in emailing. You can also hook it up to different emailing softwares that you may be more familiar with or like more, whatever. Or you can just email them manually if you want to be old school. I don't really recommend that. You will want to use some kind of a mail provider. I recommend doing is setting up an auto emailer that emails people maybe once a month with a different promotion, highlighting your property for that month of the year. It's relatively easy to set something like that up and have it run on autopilot and have people just enter it into the right place depending on what time of the year they join your list at. What can be really nice about that is that now you set it up once, you write out 12 emails with different photos, different highlights of your property, and now it's pretty much set it and forget it. People stay at your property, they get opted into the email, they get dropped into this sequence where they have a bit of a welcome, and then they get an email monthly, and now suddenly you're generating repeat bookings on autopilot. You're also going to want to set up a direct booking website, which you can do through your channel management software more often than not. If you're looking for a channel management software, Hostway is a really great one that has this functionality that's going to allow you to, in just a few simple clicks, set up a direct booking website that you can point people towards so that you can capitalize on those bookings without getting more fees from Airbnb. So that's another really great way to get some high quality views onto your listing. I hope this video has been super, super helpful for you. If you have any questions, as always, let me know in the comment section down below. If you liked this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, hit that like button to support the channel, get this video, get it more views. I would appreciate that. All you have to do is hit that like button. It only takes a second. And last but not least, of course, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. I post 2 new videos every single week here on the channel. So make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date with those. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.